Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. You are now joining Jason Griggs on the guest list. Jason is a fellow entrepreneur out here. He is the founder of Movin Up Lacrosse and the founder of Griggs Team Real Estate. This man is absolutely crushing it. Almost $8 million in sales last year. And you can tell he has a little bit of passion because he's helping young kids find some love within lacrosse. Thank you, Jason, for coming on.
Jake, thanks for having me. I'm fired up to be here, man.
I appreciate it, dude. Like I said, I saw you online, absolutely crushing it. It's so cool to see people doing it. And I like that you have a side project on top of that, that just like it speaks to the tune of the entrepreneurial spirit in Vegas. That's something I always harp on all the time because there's so much opportunity out here. And if we concentrate too much on wealth creation, then we don't really get to live our lives as much. So you can see that there's some passion in it.
Yeah, you have to love what you do. And all day, every day, I love what I do. So I spend half my day doing real estate. That's my first job and career. And then I'm lucky enough to have a second job. And I started Moving Up Lacrosse about 5 years ago. And what I do with that is I just coach lacrosse. And I try to grow the game of it in Henderson. I coach a high school program as well as a youth program.
Which high school?
Coronado.
Oh,
all my kids are from Coronado High School. And I've been coaching there for 9 years now. This is my 9th season. And we just been doing it. I just do it, just clockwork. Every season we do it. We play all year round because the weather here is amazing. Perfect. As you know, it's perfect weather. And we just play. And I get to mentor kids from kindergarten all the way to 18 years old. And it's a lot of fun doing it.
It's very rewarding. Were you a former lacrosse player?
Yes, I played in Long Island, New York. That's where I'm from. And I played it my whole life. And I was fortunate enough to play in college. And then I came here after grad school. And lacrosse wasn't that big here. So opportunity to kind of hop in with the program and just grow it. And now we have about 200 kids in our program.
That's amazing. What college did you attend?
I attended West Virginia University.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
That was one of my dream schools that I wanted to go
Really?
to. Yeah, I applied for the sports coaching program, the football coaching program.
Okay.
I got accepted, but it's it's a very big entry barrier in terms of capital to go there. It was like $50K a year, and I was like, yeah, I'm poor.
When I went, it wasn't that expensive, but I will say I had the best experience going to that school. If you want to talk about sports and love
The culture there is
the culture
massive.
is something that I was not used to, and I just dove right into it. Waking up at 6 a.m. to go to the football games, standing outside for 10 hours to go to a basketball game, and then I got to be a part of it playing lacrosse there. It was a lot of fun.
It's beautiful. Yeah, my father and my uncle lived in Morgantown for like 5 years. So I used to always just grow up hearing their crazy stories of what Morgantown was like when the drinking age was only 19 at the time and going out and partying and just how West Virginia is generally like the number one or top 5 party school in the nation every time. You got hundreds of thousands of people who live there. It's such an experience.
It was a wild ride for me, but I love it, and I miss it a lot. My wife always jokes around with me. She's like, you got to let it go. And I always wear my West Virginia gear, and it's unless you do it, people won't understand, but it was, I would recommend everyone go to a football game in Morgantown. It's just a lot of fun.
Was the lacrosse program big there?
It was. We were fortunate enough to play within. We got to play on the football stadium. The athletic director, who was actually, Andrew Luck, his father was our athletic director. So he let us play right after the football team. So at that school, the athletics take over more of the academics, and they really treat athletes there very well.
Lacrosse was a sport that I always wanted to play. I went to high school at Chaparral on the east side. There was no lacrosse over there. I always used to make fun. I was like, God, all the rich kids get to play lacrosse. No fair. It's just like, it's a perfect combination of, it has the athleticism and intensity of football, but it's more freeing because it's a nonstop game where there's no like stop play like in football. A little bit more freeing, and you could be creative with how you, I guess it's what the term is juke, how you juke different people with the stick, and how you can have these like, how you could take the stick and throw it behind your back for a goal. It's so awesome to watch. It's like almost like figure skating.
It's a flow game. So you're right. Like comparison to football, it's very stop and go. In lacrosse, it's never stopping. It's constantly going. Very similar to hockey, and the ball is just constantly moving. And then you have the X factor with the stick. So if you're a good athlete, that's step one. But then you have to perfect the stick portion of it, just like in hockey. So that's what we teach the kids, how to do both.
So is the goal from Movin Up Lacrosse to just grow the sport overall within the city and just get people more familiar with it?
Yes, it is. My base is in Henderson, so I kind of have a little sector that I work with, and I would say 95% of my kids come from Henderson. So that's always been my goal with it, to give the kids an avenue to play. And we do a lot of traveling. We travel all over. Unfortunately, right now, we can't play in Vegas with this COVID stuff. So we've been going to Arizona a lot. They're the only state that's allowing lacrosse right now.
Interesting. And when in times where there isn't a pandemic, do you host tournaments and maybe out-of-state teams over within your area in the league?
Yeah, so I've kind of based my high school program, well, both programs, kind of after a college model, which we travel and we set up the team dinners and the practice schedules. I want to give the kids a great experience with sport, just like I have had. And ultimately, my goal is to give them such a good experience that I move them up to college. That's where the name kind of came from. We want to move up the ladder. And we this is almost 6 years ago now. I had a kid. He kept asking me, "Am I going to move up to the next level? Am I going to move?" I'm like, I got something here with this moving up, and it caught on. So all the kids kept asking me, "Am I moving up to here? Am I moving up?" And that's how the name came.
Would you say there's a higher turnover rate in terms of players who get accepted into college on an athletic scholarship than it is for football? Like, I played football in high school, and it's only a small fraction of those players actually get a scholarship, maybe 1 or 2%.
I would say lacrosse is one of the easier sports to get scholarships. Football is a whole nother world, much more difficult. But now, especially in the West Coast, programs are just blossoming like out of nowhere. The University of Utah is a brand new Division I program within the last 3-4 years. We have a few kids that go there now, and they love it. So it's cool for me, kind of it's an East Coast sport, moving it over to the West Coast, trying to help it here, and it's working. And a lot more kids want to play in the nicer weather, and there's some Pac-12 schools that are now adapting to lacrosse, and it's great.
I can see the migration over there just increasing steadily over the next years and decades because of the awareness that surrounds concussions in football and the amount of people who are just not about it anymore. And now you see youth football, the numbers have been decreasing over time, and there's been an increase in flag football because it's not as high contact, and a lot of the parents are worried about their kids getting CTE at a young age. And with lacrosse, it's not, I wouldn't say it's not as difficult to get CTE, but there's a little bit more freedom surrounding it.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot from parents. We have a lot of parents from baseball that bring their kids over to lacrosse and football too. We've heard the boring factor, football and baseball, a little boring for my kid. He needs a little bit more action, and we're happy to have him. And we give him a shot at it. And some kids like it, some kids don't, but we do the best we can. But from a safety perspective, they have the helmet. It is a little safer. It's not as much head contact as football, but yeah, it works out well.
Do you have a league for both genders? Is it men and women, or is it just male? So
we just branched off. I'll give a shout out to my coach, Jack Jones, and he just started a girls program within Movin Up Lacrosse, and he just started it in the fall during this whole COVID thing, and it exploded. There was like no set girls lacrosse in our area, and he saw a good opportunity to kind of branch away from the boys and give the girls the same opportunity the boys have, and it exploded.
I can absolutely see that. Since I graduated high school, they started women's field hockey at my high school. So you're starting to see more of these sports open up to women in a less aggressive manner or less physical contact, because obviously with different biological differences, you have to play a little bit different. But you still want to include the women in there because it's the whole idea of sports is to increase different qualities and intangibles of a person, right? Like competition breeds fierceness, and like it builds your confidence. You understand teamwork and all these different traits from it that stem from sports. So you don't want to make it just limited to men's.
No, 100%. You're correct. And I think the biggest problem we have here in Vegas is a lot of people here didn't get to play lacrosse. So it's hard to find coaches. So a lot of the coaches here are kind of migrations from other places back east or California. And my coach Jack is from Michigan, and he came and saw the opportunity for the girls, and he wanted to give them an opportunity.
Yeah, lacrosse is something. Are there adult leagues?
There are here. Obviously, they're not going on now, but I'm a little too old to play. I'm done. I like try to keep up with my kids now, and it's like,
You
wow.
play goalie, right?
Yeah, no. But yes, there are some adult leagues here. We just try to support all the lacrosse, especially in Las Vegas and Henderson. I think we've done a pretty good job of it, trying to just get the kids to have a good experience, and then we kind of ship them off to where they want to go to school. That's the ultimate goal for me.
So when you're out there coaching, is it a little bit of a release from having to go sell real estate and like from the finance and this more intensive world of capitalism, and you get to go release it a little bit and be a little bit of a leader with the youth groups?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. It's nice to just put the phone away for a few hours, and I'm an athlete at heart. I'm very competitive, and I like to get out there with the kids, and sometimes I'll hop in the drill with them, and I'm like, I'm still on the team, but the reason why I coach, I'm a team guy, and I love being on a team. I've always loved having teammates, and with where I'm at now, I get to do that, and now I'm like the leader of my team, so I get to mentor kids with coaching, and I love doing that. It's a roller coaster ride. Every day is different, where especially because I go from different age groups, where I go from sixth graders, and then immediately after that practice is over, I go to 18-year-olds. So it's a wild adjustment within a short period of time, but I love doing it.
I could see it's very rewarding, especially when you move them up into the collegiate level and they could find success there, because we know sports, it's a easy, I don't say it's an easy way, but it's an avenue to get yourself out of poverty or to increase the different opportunities that surround your world. It's been a very popular route for a lot of the lower middle class areas, and to see these kind of opportunities present themselves is just like, it's even more rewarding.
That's definitely the most rewarding for me as a coach is your kids are a byproduct of you. And if they do well at the next level, you kind of get that, oh, wow, there's something going on in this program. I don't want the accolade, but my program, I want people to recognize what we're doing, of taking some kids from a very small pocket in the country that is not a lacrosse hotbed and putting them in good situations for them to succeed. And I've had a lot of success stories with my kids, and that's the best part.
Do you stay in contact with them after they go to the next level?
All the time. I have a close relationship with a lot of my kids, and it's a nice bond to have, especially now that they're older, and now I'm getting kids that I coached when I was 22, and now they're 25, and they come back and they help me coach, and it's nice.
That is very rewarding. Is there a pro lacrosse league?
There is a pro lacrosse, the PLL. Paul Rabel started it, and he kind of started from scratch out of nowhere and signed with NBC Sports, and it exploded. And now they kind of bought out the other MLL professional lacrosse, and now they're kind of like the monopoly of the professional lacrosse world. And he did a great job because it's fun to watch.
I have to say I did enjoy watching college lacrosse during the playoffs when it'd be on ESPN. That was very fun to watch, just to see these kids succeed. And it's a different fast-paced thing. I've always been a football guy. I was a track guy, so it's kind of like a good combination of both.
Yeah, anytime you get competition, it's fun to watch. I mean, those college guys now, they're so good. And the game has evolved and changed, and now I'm just like, from what I played in college, I'm like, this is like way different. But it's awesome. And now they have the pros, so that the best kids in college can now go to the pros if they want to go. And there's a lot of opportunities now with social media and the marketing of the game. So the sky's the limit.
competition breeds innovation. It just brings people to the next level, and something that's very competitive in Vegas is also something that you're a part of.
Yes.
The real estate market right now.
Yes, sir.
I read an article the other day where there was only a few thousand houses on inventory, and there was like 20,000 real estate agents.
Yeah.
So it's like, it seems like there's a 3 or 4 to 1 ratio for real estate agents to inventories.
Yeah, that's true. I don't really pay attention to that stuff just because I like to focus on me and what I'm going to do. But I think you're right. I think your numbers are right. I think there's only like 1.4 months of inventory right now. And the market of agents is very saturated. So it's kind of a dog-eat-dog world. If you don't do what you're supposed to do and you're not on top of it, then you're not going to succeed in the business.
Let's go back to the start of your real estate career. When did you enter the market? Do you still have the same philosophy now that you've been you found success in the market? Has your strategies changed?
So I'm a little different. My mindset going into real estate was I want to be a successful investor. And I call myself an investing agent rather just an agent, because my mindset is always I want to invest, look at the investment side first, and then my being an agent career second. Because when you're in real estate, it's kind of like having an inside tip to compare it to stocks. Like, you get to see the whole general knowledge before anyone else does. When a house comes to the market, you're the first one who gets to see it. So when I started, that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to figure out how I can change my life of investing in real estate. And I did that by buying rental properties. And I bought my first few months, I bought my first rental property in Henderson. And then I started figuring out how I can help my clients do what I do. And then that's how kind of my career blossomed. And but I also, a lot of agents don't venture out into different areas. A lot of my clients come from back home in New York, where I'm from. And they just kind of stick to this one little market. Vegas is small. But what I like to do, I like to bring people here. Vegas is amazing. Henderson, where I live, is amazing. And that's what I get a joy out of helping people kind of change their life and change their situation. It's very expensive where I'm from to live, and where I live, it's very cheap.
Yeah.
And it's a big difference. You could really change your life. You could own a bigger house. You could have more money to save. And so that's what I really get the joy out of is showing people that.
Yeah, there's a mass exodus out of New York right now and LA, but New York, there's a few popular influencers and podcasters and speakers that I follow, and most of their friends have left because of just, depending on your opinions of Cuomo and the mayor, people just have said that New York has kind of just lost that feeling of what makes it a great city.
I've been gone 10 years out of New York. I love going back. My wife is from New York too, and we love going back, seeing our friends. But I would say the biggest difference from back home to here is the city is constantly evolving and changing, and there's new things, and it's like amazing. And where I'm from in Long Island, New York, it was very like the same old thing. Manhattan is different. I was never a big New York City guy, but here it's like the new hotel, the Golden Knights, the Raiders. I just got to go to the new stadium. I was blown away. Like, that's what I love about the city. It's constantly like you open the door and there's like there's just always new something. And that's what I like about living here.
Yeah, I was talking with a gentleman on here about the culture of Vegas, and we came to the agreement that we're in like this golden age of culture right now. There's, like you said, there's so many different things that are popping up, and unfortunately, the city was very dependent on tourism. I felt like we were starting to build different bridges off of it, but now we've just been devastated, and now we have to like rebuild our city outside of tourism, because it's going to take years to recover. From a lot of the insiders that I've talked to, they've said 2023, I've heard 2022, that just makes you cringe thinking about that.
Yeah.
As we talked before, you were a nightclub guy, and when I was working at Omni after 2 weeks, I was like, all right, after Omnia closed, and about 2 weeks into the pandemic, I was like, all right, this is going to be a long, long time. And the things that Vegas was rebuilt on in its last repurposing phase and towards the end of the 2000s, which was entertainment and nightlife and the pools, these things are going to be the last things to open up and recover. So we have to find different ways to build a community around the Strip.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, and I'll talk about this. So with me coaching, I'm very involved in my Henderson community. And I did see a big switch from when I started to now. A lot more in the hotel industry, nightlife industry, and I gauge it by the kids' parents of what they do for work, right? Because they live in Henderson. And now it's very different. A lot of people work from home. They start their own businesses. So the city's changing. And in my opinion, I think it's changing for the better. I don't think Vegas can solely rely on being an industry, hotel, casino, nightlife city anymore. And now we're kind of turning into a more family-oriented sports. We have 2 sports teams maybe bringing on more. We're a sports town. Like that. I think that's the better route to go rather than just solely relying on tourism. Because as you could see, at any moment, the tourism can stop and we would still be fine. But you're right. It's changing, and I personally feel like it's changing for the better because a lot of people are moving here. If it wasn't, then people wouldn't be moving here.
Yeah, Vegas. I forget what article it was, that Vegas was the number 2 destination for new residents for 2020, and it was around the same number the year before that as well. So people are definitely seeing a lot of value here. A lot of people do like to use the Strip and downtown as a playground, but there's so many other amenities to it. There's no state taxes. The real estate is cheap compared to a lot of these other big, massive metropolises. And so there's a lot of different blooming industries. The film industry is moving out here. The adult entertainment industry is moving out here. Who else knows what's being built out here? The tech landscape is changing now that Tony Hsieh has passed away. Unfortunately, he was kind of funding that whole project, but you'll see different things popping up over time and time again.
Yeah. And I think, the price to live here is the main attraction. The price of anything is the main attraction, right? So when you have all these fun things and then you're like, oh, wow, I could live there and it's cheap. And then I could go to California for $39 whenever I want on a flight. That a lot of people are seeing, like, I'm not paying this big money in LA and Denver and anymore. I don't want to do that. I want to live comfortably. And a lot of people got hurt with this coronavirus, and so they're kind of moving their path into Las Vegas, which is great for our market. And but I think it's better for people. They're kind of living on a lower scale, and you could get further that way.
Yeah, and I touch on this point a few times recently, that this growing trend that you kind of spoke on about people opening their own business. We're moving in this creator economy where a majority of the businesses are going to be solely in the digital space. And you have to have a platform of some sort, whether you're offering a service online or you're a brand or you're offering content or entertainment, but you can't just live out in this physical world anymore. You have to have some sort of notoriety to succeed. And a lot of people are realizing that you can live just off of that digital landscape. And now we see things like Wall Street bets, and people are understanding financial markets. And I feel like the amount of financial investors or traders has just increased magnitudes more over time. So people are starting to realize that these social constructs of this, I'll call it the old world, even though it's just last year, but when we look into when we're in the future and we look at the past, we're going to be like, wow, that was such a drastic change to the internet age that we've always wanted.
Yeah, for me, I get to coach 18-year-olds, right? 17, 18-year-olds, and I'm with them a lot. And I'm always involved of what they're doing. I always like to ask them what they're doing. But recently, this group that I have now, they're very like entrepreneurial like mindset. They are asking me about my real estate. They're asking me about stocks, Bitcoin. And I'm like, you guys are 17 years old. Like, I was never thinking about this stuff at 17 years old, but that's the way it is now with the social media. Like, these kids, they could go on, they could start their own business, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. I had a kid on my team. He stopped playing lacrosse because he wanted to venture off into video games. And at first I was like, gee, like, I would never expect that, but there's money in it. So you can't blame him. Then that's the way he wants to go. More power to you. But it's just the opportunity now for these kids with the social media and the networking is amazing, and more power to whoever uses it.
It's funny when you think into the past of young kids in maybe the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the only way you could seek fame or some sort of income is if you start if your parents put you in a commercial or you're a hit singer like Michael Jackson in the Five. Like there were so many limited opportunities to a child or, a young adult to enter into. But now as we're into this digital space, that the ability to consume information is just in the palm of your hands. At the Library Alexandria is in the palm of your hands. You can learn anything on YouTube. I learned everything about this podcast, from how to control my conversational style, to setting up the equipment, to video editing, everything in a few months just on the internet, on YouTube. It's such a beautiful site. And now everyone is able, I literally just talked about this with Monica, who was on my podcast most recently, that we're now moving into this age of collaboration. Everyone wants to work together. When we were in this physical world of the stores and storefronts, it was very territorial. We were very primal. Everyone wanted to compete. But now everyone wants to collab, because we realize that, hey, if we buy this GameStop stock all at the same time, we're going to shoot it up 1,000%.
Yeah.
So as long as you're smart about it.
The team aspect, right? And I think you just nailed it. I love working with other people, and you can't do everything on your own. And that's something the past 24 months where I've hired my first employee. Scary, because now you have to take care of yourself, which I'm fine doing, but now you got to worry about somebody else. And now I'm hiring another person, training them from scratch. And you're like, okay, wow, now we could have like a little team here and work together and do this with the real estate. But for Instagram, for me, I've been able to make so much money because I've been collaborating, working with other people, where they're like, hey, Jay, did you see this deal? And I'm like, no. And they send it to me, or I'm like, what are you doing? How do you do this? And people are willing to help you if you just ask. And that's a quality that I think I have. I ask a lot of questions. And if you don't ask, you don't get. So I've worked with some amazing people through Instagram. Ryan Pineda is a big one. My friend Jaden, who's 21 years old, had no idea about wholesaling real estate, how to find these off-market deals, and he taught me how to do it all through text message, and now he's a good friend of mine, and I get to handle a lot of his flipping properties that he does out here. But I met him through Instagram. I never met him in person before, and that's what I use social media for. I like to promote my stuff, obviously, but I get to meet so many people, and people want to come visit because they kind of see what they're doing. I've also gotten clients that want to invest because they see what I'm doing, and it's nice.
Yeah, social media is just a facilitator to start a conversation. It's just a medium. Sometimes we get lost in the likes and the comments and the engagement, but it's really there just so you can have a direct channel to somebody else, to pick their brain or to even do business with them. When I reach out to people for the podcast, I've noticed it's probably about a 75% rate that people say yes. It's just like, wow. It's just like, there is this invisible barrier in the beginning. Like, no, everyone's going to say no. They're not going to respond to me. But once you get past that, it's like, okay, what if they say no? What's it matter? Then you just, it's a numbers game. And after you get past that kind of self-deprecating mindset, and the majority of us want to work together, the media kind of polarizes it to make it seem like we don't want to work together. But the majority of humanity does, and that's when beautiful things tend to happen in collaboration.
Yeah, I just love, first of all, when I see somebody doing well, it motivates me. I'm like, if he could do it, I could do it. If he's doing this, I can catch up. And that's kind of been my scale, where I'll find somebody that I look up to in the real estate world and somebody that I think that I could obtain kind of what they're doing. And slowly I found myself creeping up. Like, I'm like, okay, this guy has this many properties rented out. Now I have kind of similar. So I'm catching up, and then you want to obviously level up and move up, right? All the way as high as you could go. But that's what I use Instagram for, the networking and kind of goal setting and meeting people better than me at what I do. Because if they say if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. So and it's been life-changing for me.
Yeah, there's so many different personalities and entrepreneurs out there that you don't even realize exist until you really just start sifting through different profiles. And sometimes we get stuck in this, I guess this idea that we use social media too much. I always say you need to use social media. Don't let it use you, right? Like
Yep.
when you start scrolling and it's been 30 minutes and you're just like, wait, what am I doing? Or there's times where I'm watching something on TV, I start scrolling and then I look up and it's a commercial again. I'm like, fuck, I just missed it. Like, what am I doing? The social media is using me. So there needs to be a healthy diet to it. But something also I do want to touch on is obviously as we move into this digital space, a lot of people, they seem to tense up when you see that screen time that says on Sunday where it's like, oh, you were on the phone for 5 hours today. But we need to understand that if we're moving into a digital space, we're going to be on the phone more, but it's how useful are you using that time to further your education or further your brand or further your collaboration with other people?
Yeah, I'm on my phone a lot. I'll admit it, and but I feel like I'm productive on the phone. A lot of people are just kind of browsing, as you say, but I use it for networking. I talk to so many people on Instagram, and I've gotten a lot of business from Instagram. Just reaching out, just asking, like, can I help you? And when you do that, it works. I recently represented a professional athlete where he needed help funding a house, and I said, can I help you? And he said, yeah. And just like that, that's how I got, and I now represent him. And it was a pleasure to work for him. And then what did he do? He posts about me, and he's like, you did a great job. So he refers me to more people. And it's just like, if I didn't message him or if I didn't comment on his little post that he did, then I wouldn't have never got him as a client. And so now I do that just on a bigger scale.
It really speaks attuned to the cliche term, your network is your net worth.
Yep.
It's so true, especially in Vegas, where it's probably one of the smallest big cities out there. Everyone is separated by 1 to 3 degrees of separation. Like you can really meet anyone, or you meet a friend and they're like, oh, that guy that was just on your podcast is my cousin's brother, or he was my real estate agent. Like everyone here is so connected. So that the barrier to entry to getting into these networking circles isn't as high as you think it is. It's you really only have to meet a few people and put yourself out there to then just understand that this deep, dark network of people isn't really as dark. It's very light and fruitful, and people really do want to help you.
Yeah, I with social media, it's like when you follow someone, you kind of feel like you're friends with them already, right? Before you even meet them. So then when you finally meet them in person, you kind of have this like relationship, but you don't really have it's weird. But I found it easier to make friends and just work with other people. And I just love it. I honestly love it. And if I didn't have social media, my business would not be doing as well, obviously. And then I get to kind of promote what I'm doing and more importantly, help people now. I'm in a position where all day I get to help people. And I'm helping people with real estate, how to kind of make money, helping them move into better situations. And then I get to, the second half of my day, I get to help kids, kind of help their situations. So I'm constantly in a great position where I get to help people. And that's what's important to me.
Yeah. And both of those situations, you're helping them achieve, or you're helping them get to their life goals, right? Everyone wants to live in this very luxurious or comfortable home. And these kids want to reach their goal to make it to the next level or to find different opportunities and improve their athletic skills. So you are getting two ends of the success goals.
Yeah. And LeBron James said this recently, and I've been using it a lot because I think it's amazing what he said. And after he won the championship, he said that the most important thing for him was to be available to his teammates, given the situation in the bubble. And I took that, it just went off in my head. I'm like, you know what? I need to be available to people who need me. And a lot of my kids need me. If I don't provide lacrosse to them, they're like, they go into a dark place where there's just no sports. They sit in their room all day. They don't have school. They're not allowed to be with their friends. So the 2 hours with me is important to them. So giving that availability to them, making the sport happen. And then my clients, the same thing, or my investors being available. If they need it, they'll text me at 11 o'clock at night and I never give them a hard time about it. I'm available to them. Whenever they need me, they could call me, they could text me, and I'll help, whatever the situation may be.
It's a beautiful part of breaking down this old facade of the 40-hour work week. We're we now see through that veil and realize that that was just a social construct of the government to help people obey. And this new era that we're moving into, you can really go along Tim Ferriss's lines of the 4-hour work week as long as you plan accordingly, right? Like it's very easy to make yourself available if there's no set timetable. It's just like text me and I'll come whenever I need to be there. Or I guess the real only time you have to designate out for yourself is just when you're down there at practice. But every other time, it doesn't feel like work.
No,
it's
it doesn't.
just, you're just there living life, helping people.
When you love what you do, they say like you never work a day in your life. And I kind of feel like that. It's hit me the past 2 years where I've realized that I can kind of do what I want whenever I want to do it. And I love that. That's the real freedom to me. That's the real bonus of kind of being successful in your job, where you can tell somebody like, no, I don't want to work with you anymore, or I'm not available. I don't want to do that. And so it's given me more time to do other things and expand my lacrosse business. And now we're starting a girls team, and I'm like, okay, now I could kind of invest in some things that maybe I would have never looked into a few years ago when I had just a regular job. But you're right. I actually work more than probably the normal person, but I can structure it if I don't want to. And I choose to work.
Yeah, and in this new economy, it's not just 8 continuous hours. It's, you know, you're out with a client selling a house, and then you go get lunch, and then you go hang out with you know your wife, and then you could go to lacrosse practice, and then you know there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of time to rest. Whereas like when you're working, especially like when you're working at a nightclub, it's just continuous for 6-7 hours, and so by the end of the shift, you're just completely drained. You're like, I don't want to even do anything tomorrow. I'm so done.
Yeah.
It's an easier way to maintain your energy, and you're profiting off of what your mental capacity can do rather than what your physical ability can do.
So I worked in the nightclub just like you did, and I had a great experience with it. Rough hours, obviously, but the reason I loved it was the networking. You can meet any A-list celebrity could come in at any moment, and I think a lot of the girls take advantage of their networking and how it can help them, and that's kind of what I did. I met a lot of people through the nightclub, and now they're buying houses for me or they're investing with me. So I think my time there was well spent. Obviously, the money was very good at the time, and I'm grateful to be able to work there, but the amount of people that I met there was just so awesome, and I think that's overlooked.
I'm so glad you point that out. I actually had this exact same conversation with a woman on my show. Her name is Katie Chunghwa. She used to work at Tao, and she's found a lot of success afterwards. But she also had that realization that when you're at the table with these clients or these customers who are spending large sums of money, they have some sort of success, and basically the gatekeepers who protect them, whether it's their personal assistants or their marketing company or whatever, these different layers you have to go through, those are all gone. And it's just you and them.
Yep.
And you realize that these people who have had success, they're normal people just like me and you. They want to share their knowledge. All you have to do is just ask and it'll be given.
Yeah. And the best part is they're in the best mood in the world, right? They're in Vegas, like they're fired up, ready to go, and you're giving them alcohol, and you're like the guy. So now they're like, you're on this pedestal of like, you're making my night better. So why not create a relationship with these people? And that's what I was able to do. I met so many amazing people through the nightlife, and I still keep in contact to them. But I love Vegas for that. I love that people like to come here and visit, and I like to move. I like to kind of start them off on a visit, and then, hey, why don't you move here? And my little crew that we got from where I'm from, it's like growing, and people are now, we have like a nice like 15 people from New York where I'm from. So it's nice. We get the home feel, but we're all together here just in a different city.
That's amazing. Did you have this realization before you moved out here that this town was pretty much built on networking? Like, what brought you out here from West Virginia to Vegas? Seems like quite a stark transition. Yeah,
my best friend at the time was going to UNLV, and I kept visiting him, and I went on like a 6-month span where I was coming here like every month, and I was like, okay, there's something going on here that I'm just like, it's like the city, the lights, the action. I like to use that word a lot, action. And what I mean by action is just like the vibe of people just in a great mood all the time, having fun, enjoying their life. And I was like, I got to move here. Like, I see a lot of opportunity. And when I moved in 2011 or 12, like Vegas wasn't doing good, but I didn't even realize it. Like, I was having the best time, my little 1-bedroom condo by myself. And then I just started meeting people. And my buddy connected me with a few of his friends. And then I obviously met my own friends, and we kind of live this life of now we want more people here to enjoy what we're doing.
It just shows that no matter what your ongoing environment is around you, whether it's something drastic like, the financial crisis in 2008 or the pandemic that's going on now, you can succeed in these times as long as you just focus on yourself. A lot of the people that I've had on this podcast had a great 2020 because they just focus on themselves, whether they believe the world is collapsing outside of them or not, or if they just get indoctrinated with the traditional media. It comes down to your thoughts and your beliefs. And if you could find people who share those beliefs, you will succeed, and you have to build in these times.
Yeah. I think I have a really good mindset. Every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do really well today. I'm going to be productive today. And that's tough. And when you're in a sales business, or because there's nobody kind of watching you, right? You have to do it on your own. You have to be very, very self-driven in this business. And I think I have that. And a lot of people fail in real estate because they don't have that self-drive. I want to be successful, and not becoming successful is just not an option for me. I have to do it. And I wake up every morning and I go and I do it. Like, I don't need to like sit around and like pump myself up. Like, I just go and I rock and roll. And a lot of people aren't that way. And with COVID and too many people are just reliant on or think about the other stuff that doesn't matter in life, like the presidency and the coronavirus. There's just so much negative, the media. Like, if you just focus on what you're doing, you will succeed. And that's always been my motto of, there could be a monkey as the president. I'm going to be successful no matter who the president is or what's going on in the world. I'll figure it out. I'll be able to adjust and pivot. And that's what I've done during COVID. And look, there's no lacrosse going on right now, but I found a way to make it work. We have to go outside of where we usually play. People complain about that, but that's okay. We're going to go, and we're not going to complain about it. We're just going to go. And the same thing with real estate. We find a way to make it work.
Always have to. What would you say is your main driven trait? For example, what drives me, I would say for the most part, is my curiosity. I'm just like so intensely curious about things in life. I want to learn what people are about. I want to possess as many philosophies and ideological traits just so I can have this in my own knowledge bank. Some other people are driven by external factors like money and the prestige and different things like that. What would you say is your main motivating factor?
So I don't really come from a lot of money. Both my parents were teachers. That was when I first originally moved out here, that I was a teacher. I went to grad school and I have a master's degree in being a teacher. So I taught for a year out here, and I quickly realized that I was worth more than the paycheck of $31,000 for working the entire year. So now I'm really driven by the ability to help people. If I'm successful, you do well with money, but then I kind of use that to help other people. And I think that's kind of my driving factor of I'm able to help people when I want. I'm able to provide things to some of my kids that might not be as fortunate. And that's really the cherry on top for me.
There really is a sense of fulfillment when helping people. There's many different avenues you could do it, whether you see somebody achieve that promotion that they wanted, or they get into that college for lacrosse, or they buy that house. There's some sort of fulfillment internally. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's more of an accentuation of your own personality, right? If you're a happy person and you see other people happy through whatever medium you are using to help them, it makes you feel much more internally fulfilled.
Yes, it does. And I actually went through an experience recently. I had a player of mine who in my opinion, he was one of the best players to ever come out of Las Vegas, and he went to school and he did amazing. And then he's crushing it at his job. He went to Johns Hopkins University, and watching that whole process was just amazing. And now he's at a point where I got to sell him a house 2 weeks ago. And it was just an amazing experience. I had this 16, 17-year-old kid that I got to coach, and now he's a man. Now he's crushing it, and now we get to talk about other stuff where we want to go into business together. Do we want to do some stocks? He bought a house here. He's moving home. And I'm just like, this is what it's all about. So I can see myself in the future where I may want to take some of my little lacrosse kids and teach them real estate and create like a little, hey, after we finish here, we're going to move over here and we're still going to compete. It's still competition and we're still going to have fun, but we're going to kind of do it more in the real estate space.
Yeah, almost like an academy. I had a gentleman on here. His name is Mike Waters. He runs Phase One out here.
Oh, I've heard a lot of good things about him.
And
yes.
he mentioned that they were starting Phase One Academy because he's been doing it now 17 years. And so he realized that his kids, they were being fulfilled athletically and performance-wise, but he wanted to help them more. And they were always asking him different questions on, hey, how do I understand financial literacy, technology, different aspects of life that they don't teach you in the kind of broken public school system. But now you have the ability to teach them, and now with society's kind of progressing more in like a specialization route, and it's I think that's kind of how people should have been trained to begin with. But now you have that opportunity because they trust you. You've got them, you've helped them reach physical peak performance, but now they want life performance. They want mental performance.
So the kids that I have, I was talking about this with my brother yesterday. I'm like, let's take an hour a week and just teach them about life, because they don't have school right now. They sit in front of a laptop, and being what the education system, it's not the best, obviously, in Vegas. So they're literally on the computer for an hour a day, and they have to do their little templates or whatever. And they're interested in other things. They're interested in stocks. They're interested in growing their bank account. And I don't know how, but these kids have money. It's crazy to me. I'm like, how do you have $500? I never had $500 when I was 16 years. But they do. I don't know what they do, but they have it. And I'm like, let's teach them. If I would have got into real estate at 18 years old, I would have been retired two times over, right? So I'm like, what if we teach them how to buy some real estate, how to manage a stock portfolio, stuff that I kind of know how to do now. I can pass that knowledge on. And again, that's just into the grand scheme of helping these kids. And it's just full circle. I want to see them succeed. And I think a lot of people, especially in business or solopreneurs, right? They're just so focused on them. And they don't realize that you get stuff you get help and you get stuff out of helping other people. Especially the younger generation.
There's a term that I was turned on to recently. It's called social capital. Okay. And so most entrepreneurs, you generally invest your own personal capital into building a project, or you invest your monetary capital into a project, kind of like what you're doing. But there's also this growing, this growing discipline of building social capital. You're either investing into social causes that don't have a direct monetary benefit, or you're investing your time into others. And therefore you're getting in on the ground floor of what the potential of this person could be, right? Like a young lacrosse player. And then they go out and they make it, they go to Johns Hopkins. And then right when they have money, they come back to you, and then you get to benefit off of that, and then even be potential business partners. So that's like exactly the straight point to social capital.
Yeah, and I think first of all, you need to self-invest in yourself also, and that's something I do where I'm constantly trying to figure out how I can make myself better. And I'm not so big on the motivational people that I need to listen to them, because I'm pretty motivated on my own. I don't need to go listen to Tony Robbins like to go sell a house, but some people do. But for the kids coming back, I agree with you that I'm just like, wow, like now it's full circle. Like I help them, now they might help me. But they are, because they're giving me business or they're referring me to people now. And now it's like, sky's the limit. I can teach what I do to a lot of people. And then I could also help them if they want to get into real estate. I could teach them how to do it the right way.
Yep. The main common example I could use of social capital is your parents, right? Your parents groom you from 0 to 18 and sometimes beyond. And then once they get older, you want to buy their house. You want to ensure that they're financially stable, that they have caretakers once they grow older. It's like, that's the perfect example. The longer you invest in people, same with like a relationship, the longer you date your significant other, the more likely that you're going to have a kid later down the road because they trust you with having and sharing a child together.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife, she's amazing. She supports when you are an entrepreneur, solopreneur, like you're different, you're wired different. So dating somebody like me, she must think like 10 times a day, like this dude is a psycho. Like what is going on in his head? I always have ideas and I'm always like throwing ideas. I'm like, what if we did this? What if she's like, just stay on like one track, but that's not what being an entrepreneur is. It's like you're constantly trying to gain a little here, a little there, start this, do this. And maybe it is a bad trait that I'm just like, sometimes I'm all over the place, but I think it's a good thing where I'm just like, what if we did this? What if we did that? And I'm very aggressive in investing in real estate. And if I wasn't, I wouldn't be where I was. But now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I could do it. I could do it higher. I could not do it. But I have options to kind of fulfill like what my need is for being successful in the real estate business.
Yeah, you need to have this balance between creating value and providing value. And then you can take those two different value components and translate it to different domains, right? Am I providing content value? Am I gaining monetary value? There's all these different confluences that happen together. I'm very similar to you where I'm always thinking of different ideas. I go through my notes on my iPad or on my iPhone and it's just full. I literally started this when I was in college and it's like hundreds of different ideas. And sometimes I'll scroll and look back from when I was writing in this, when I was in college. And some of these ideas are now like multi-million-dollar companies. And I'm like, man, great idea. Didn't execute on it. But then you understand like your mind is in the right place. Because as being an entrepreneur, you'll probably think of hundreds or thousands of multi-million-dollar ideas, but it comes down to execution.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to, especially in like you need to work at it. It's not something that comes like that. I have had a lot of people come and they're like, I want to learn real estate from you. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I say, okay, this is what you need to do. And I'm for whatever, because it's like amazing to me that they did the hardest part to ask, right? They came, they met with me. I showed them what to do. And they're just like, I'm like, did you go get your license? No. I didn't go get my. I'm like, well, then you can't do what I do because, and I could tell right away with people that I always give them the chance, and then I put it back on them. If I'll teach you how to do it, and you could be good at it, but it takes a lot of hard work, and especially in the city, I've noticed that everyone's looking for the quick, easy way. The city, it's hard to describe, but it's like working in the nightclub. Everyone makes the quick envelope, the quick money.
Yeah, I call it an instant gratification town.
Great. Instant gratification town. That is huge here, especially in Vegas. And there's not a lot of people that really stick to the path of just putting the seed in the dirt, watering it, and growing it the right way. And for me, I kind of do it that way, old school, and I think I'm more successful that way. I don't change brokerages every five minutes. I don't change mentors I stick with one person because it works, and we grow together. And I think a lot of people don't see that, where they're like, well, if I change my mentor now, if I change my brokerage because this is a little cheaper, and they just don't get it. They're not seeing the grand scale of just be structured and do it the right way, and you'll be successful on the right path.
You really have to lower your time frame. There's a famous Warren Buffett quote that I reference all the time where he says, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. Once you get grounded and you start planting those seeds and then watering it and then you start seeing it grow, you're not going to go to the people who go buy plants and then plant them. They generally end up dying.
Yep.
They don't know how to take care of it. They don't know how to nurture it and to groom it. And if you're not there on the ground floor, for example, like a lot of kids who get large amounts of inheritance from their family who passed away and they inherit hundreds of $1 million, a lot of them actually go broke very fast. Yeah. They don't know how to nurture $100 million. Like they always say once you create this large amount of net worth, it's actually much tougher to preserve it than it is to gain it.
Yeah, very, very true. For me, what I found is people love when I put skin in the game with real estate with them. So if I find an investment property for an investor, they'll always say, well, what do you think? And I'll say, if you're uncomfortable, I'll match whatever you're going to put in. And people like that. People like that. That shows you're confident in what you're doing and what you're finding. And then they do one with you, and then they're like, okay, you know what you're doing. Now I'm going to go on my own. But when I show people what I do, when people hire me as an agent, they say, hey, Jason, how do you know this market? I'm like, well, I own 15 houses here. I own 15 rental properties. So I'm invested in this market. If this market doesn't do good, I'm in trouble. But I'm confident in what's going on. If I wasn't, then I wouldn't be investing in it. And a lot of agents kind of promote that they're selling a lot of real estate, but they're not really in the real thick of it, the real mud of the real estate. And the only way you could be in it is by owning real estate. You can't, a lot of agents are successful selling real estate, and that's fine. But in my opinion, the real way to be successful and to get wealthy is by owning it. You need to own real estate to be successful with it. And again, my motto, and that's kind of the path I'm going on with it.
It really is. That speaks a tune of just time in the market, right? To acquire 15 houses takes time. It takes time to flip it, to understand the different models that surround flipping. Like I had Casey Ryan on here, and he said that he started out flipping, then he went to a high percentage of wholesale, and now he's back to flipping. Like you have to go out there and you have to test. You have to go through the trial and error mindset to understand that you're not going to succeed on your first time. Before I started the podcast, I had 2 different businesses that I tried to start, and I derived, those ultimately failed, whatever you view as failing, but I was able to derive the silver linings out of it of different skills and intangibles and qualities, and going through the emotional roller coaster of waking up, feeling like you're going to succeed and you're going to be the next big thing. And then the next day you're like, why am I doing this? I don't understand. But as you go through it time and time again over the years, you understand that you're feeling those emotions, but you know how to nurture it.
I listened to your podcast with Casey, and Casey is somebody I highly look up to. He's amazing in what he does in this town. And I think what he talked about is his ability to pivot. And that's what's so cool about this business. You can start doing something and you could crush it, and then something might happen, and then you could go a different way and still crush it. And says a test to him of how he's built his business. He's a monster in this town, and I've learned a lot from him, kind of getting in the game. Interesting.
What year did you enter the game?
I entered 2015-ish.
So you're around the same time as him as well.
Yeah, he does a lot more off-market volume than I do, and I would love to do what he's doing. He's a very smart guy, and I follow everything he does. He's a great guy. I've gotten to talk to him a few times, and just motivating. Again, if he could do it, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be a way that I could figure out how to do it. But he's also sent me deals before where he's like, hey, you can buy this from me if you want to.
Right.
And that's what's cool.
And that's what's cool too, is when you're first entering, you feel like it's so competitive, but then once you have some time in the market, you realize that everyone's actually helping each other with referrals. And that's not just the real estate industry. That's every industry. Is the people who succeed are oftentimes collaborating with each other.
Yeah, especially in the real estate we have like a very small niche of this off-market kind of realm that I call it. And the people within that off-market realm are the nicest people. They're animals in the business world. They are monsters, lions, whatever you want to call them. But if I texted those guys and asked them a question, they wouldn't say, go F yourself, Jason. They would, in my opinion, they would generally help me. And I would do the same for them because we're all playing the same game here. And I think that's really cool that we all work together to all try to help each other be successful. For example, there's a competitor with the Galindo group who Josh runs a crazy operation there. They do amazing stuff. And I asked them for some advice on some contracting stuff and some material stuff. And I'm like, oh, he probably won't give it to me. And he did. And it's just like he spent an hour a day kind of walking me through it of what to do. And I was like, wow, like that to me, that's like $1 million in information. Give it to me for free. And all you got to do is ask.
Yep, it's because he was investing social capital into you.
Yes,
he saw that you weren't necessarily on the ground floor, but you were below the floor that he was. But he wants you to get up to where he is, because then you'll return the favor at some point in time, whether it's for information or investment capital, whatever it is, favors down the road.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. His name is Andre, and I appreciate you, Andre, for helping me out. And I would love to help him out the next time there might be in a situation where I'm selling a house and his buyer may need a little wiggle or a push, and I'm happy to give it back.
Yeah, and it sounds like your business model is a little bit of a hybrid between the two different real estate guests that I've had on, Lacey, who founded Throne Group, and it's pretty much like a real estate agency. And then you have Casey, who's flipping houses, and you tend to go a little bit in the middle of your own different section.
Yeah, and I think that's what's unique about what I do. A lot of people aren't doing both. I work within a brokerage of 60 agents, and there's not a lot of people flipping houses within my brokerage, kind of the old school model. And then you go to some other brokerages where that's like their main focus. So I'm kind of just like taking bits and pieces from what I'm learning, and I'm like, okay, well, renting properties works, and it works very well. So I want to focus on that. But I also want to train people. I want to train people how to do this. And then I also want to help people. I have a clientele base that I need to help. So like going those different avenues, it just creates a huge like sea of success that you can have. And there's no cap. That's the best part about my job. You can make $10 million a year if you want to. And I want to make as much money as I possibly can. And that's the best part about my job.
That is amazing. How many people work for your team?
I hired my first assistant about a year ago, and I just hired a new team member, and we're in the beginning processes of, this is the first team member that I've had, and we started from scratch. I feel like in anything, if you start somebody from scratch, you can groom them to the way that you feel is best fit, and that's kind of what I'm doing with her. And I went like over 12 of people who wanted to come and join my team. I've put the ad out many times, and nobody kind of went through the whole way. She did, and I'm just helping her. I'm excited about it, and she'll do really well.
Isn't it really invigorating? I've never gone through this process of hiring somebody, but from what I gather from people I've talked to, when you hire somebody new, it's very motivating. It's almost like you're starting off fresh again, because you're like the father to whoever you bring on. You get to groom them, and then you get to see them succeed.
Yeah, in real estate, in the beginning, it's a very lonely business. I don't know if anybody's ever talked about it, but it's not all glamour and glitz and all that. In the beginning, it's lonely. You're by yourself. You have to figure it out. So you're like constantly, is this the right thing to do? Is this not? And when you hire people, they're on your team. They're working with you, not against you. So it's not lonely anymore. So I like the fact that I could come in and they're bringing me ideas now. Like, what if we did this? What if we did that? And I'm like, oh, wow, I would have never even thought of something like that. And that's like what I get excited about, because, again, the team thing, I'm such a team guy with sports and coaching that you got to be a we guy instead of a me guy. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to build with my team, there's some really amazing teams out there, and that's kind of where I want to get to.
You mentioned renting, and you saw that there's a lot of opportunity there. What sets renting from, I guess, selling apart? What kind of benefits do you see? I haven't been able to talk to anyone specifically about the renting model yet.
Okay, so when I first moved here to Vegas, I quickly realized that people are very silly with their money. As you know, working the nightlife and the gambling and what goes on. So a lot of people do not manage their money correctly. We'll just leave it at that. And I found that buying a house, the rental market here is always on fire because of that reason. People just aren't smart with their money. So I found an opportunity where if you buy something, and I buy all my properties mainly in Henderson, my model is I'll make the house as nice as possible, and then I will rent it. And what I found is that these people will pay more premium for a nicer house. And I'll I'll juice the rent up as high as I think I could get it. And it's been very successful for me to do that because you have people who have money. They're just not in a position to buy a house, or maybe they don't want to. So you could kind of use that to your advantage of buying a property, fixing it up nice, and getting a nice return on it where they're essentially paying off your mortgage for you. Mm-hmm. That's the game. You're getting a house pretty much for free after it's all said and done because you have somebody else paying off your mortgage. And that's what all these people do with these developments down here and these commercial. They buy something and they have somebody else kind of pay it off for them. And I've been lucky because the appreciation. I bought a lot of properties back 5-6 years ago, and now they're almost doubled in value. But that's kind of my business model with my investing. I flip also, but I'm not as big of a flipper as I am. We call it a buy and holder.
Okay. Yeah, if you're a buy and holder, you're definitely in it for the long term,
yes.
The long term view, because depending on if they have if you sign a 15-year, 30-year lease or loan or whatever, it takes at least that much time to pay it off, or maybe a little less with the premium. Yeah,
well, we just talked about it, right? It's not the quick dollar. It takes time, but that's okay. That's okay. You can't get rich in a day. It takes time and progress, and my goal every year is to buy a certain amount of rental properties, and each year I've been able to do it, and that's what I'm going to just continue to do, and I think the model works. I've seen it work for many people, and that's ultimately what I'm going to do.
Do you have a management company helping you with running these properties?
I don't. It's funny because my broker actually owns one of the biggest property management companies. I'm a person that if you don't do it yourself, it doesn't get done right. And I've always, so I do everything myself. And for anyone that wants to get into buying a rental property, I feel like they should always manage it their first year because you learn a lot in that year. And then if you want to push it off, that's fine. But when you push it off to a property management company, they're not showing the best interests of the home like you are. It's your home. But more importantly, my tenants, I treat them like clients, and I think that's something a lot of people don't do. They just treat them like a low level tenant. I'm collecting money from you, and that's it. And I think my tenants will tell you that I really attend to them, whatever they need. If they need help, I'm there. They could text me at any time. Things get fixed very quickly. And I have like that New York state of mind where it's like it needs to be done right away. It's done. So I haven't had any problems. I know some people have some problems with getting rent and they're scared of that. But if you screen somebody the right way up front, it's just like dating someone. Like you'll know right away, like, okay, I don't want to rent my house to this person, but this person I can see myself getting along with and I won't have any issues. I want to help this person. I want to rent them my house.
Right. Yeah. You are a property manager. It's just like being a manager within a business. You're not necessarily managing the properties as much the people within it because humanity is pretty chaotic, right? We're irrational, or these kind of life situations pop up that you can't ever predict. So you have to be there at a snap of the fingers to help loosen the situation for whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's just like if you treat people right, you're going to get treated right back. Always. And if it's real estate, if it's coaching, if it's getting a coffee downstairs, and when you treat people like it's your home and you treat them well, they'll treat your home well. And I've had good success with that. And if some people haven't, and you just got to be nice to people. If you're nice to them, and look, you're collecting money from them. So you got to butter them up a little bit, but you can do nice things for them, even though you're renting them your house. And that's kind of what I've done.
Comes down to just being a straight, genuine human being.
Right. Yeah, it's not rocket science here. I'm buying a house and renting it and hoping the property value goes up and collecting money a little over the mortgage so they pay off your mortgage. That's the whole business model.
When you're having investment rental properties, do you ever face like a large amount of issues within the appliances breaking down or the AC goes down and you have to have a large expenditure, which therefore cuts out of the profit?
No, I haven't ran into that yet, thankfully, because you need to do your homework before. My broker, Tim Cups, he said this line to me. It's so true. You get in on the buy. And what he means by that is you need to do all your homework. All your advantages are in the beginning of the purchase. So if there's stuff wrong in the beginning, it's not going to go away. So I've recently kind of partnered with a contractor. His name is Nick Marietta, and he's changed my whole business where I'm now going after kind of harder projects where I would never do before because I know nothing about construction. I've never even nailed in a hammer in my life. And now I'm remodeling full houses now. And I have to trust somebody to kind of do that. And I kind of had a little scare of I don't want to trust anybody because I didn't know anybody to do like the work that I felt was par. But he kind of changed our whole game where he could do a house in like 15 days. And it's like, I'm just blown away. And it's like very, very great work.
That's awesome. I would presume that the biggest deterrent to getting into real estate rental properties is just the things that could pop up that would drain your bank account, like a new AC that costs $10,000, and you're like, well, there goes a year of rent, of profit.
Well, that's part of the game, right? There's going to be headaches, and in the beginning, I was like so nervous. Like when I got a text, I'm like, oh my God, something broke. But now it's just part of my job. If something breaks, we fix it.
You're very familiar with it. You understand. You've gone through that emotional roller coaster a few times. You know how to manage that.
Yeah. I've had a few problems, leaks where the water's coming through and you're like, you got to just stay calm and it'll get fixed. But you have to take care of your tenants just as well as you take care of your house. And for anybody who wants to get involved in investing in real estate, I feel like that's the easier route, where it's the safer route where you buy something and you're kind of holding it and you're nurturing it. And then over time, it'll grow and you'll make more money.
You have to be an expert in compartmentalization when you're an entrepreneur. You have to know that whatever happens at the lacrosse practice can't exacerbate your feelings when it comes to managing any of your clients within a rental property. You have to be able to say that this stays here and then this stays over here.
Yeah. It's funny. I got a bad text earlier, and I'm just like, you're right. Like I was like pissed off for a second. And I'm like, I can't let this affect this because then it'll ruin your show, which I'm happy to come on and support, and thank you for having me. But you need to be able a quick mindset of shut it off. And I do that in practice a lot where a kid drives you nuts and you want to like kill them, and you're like just listen. Like just listen to what we're telling you to do. And then the practice ends, and then here comes your other team that has nothing to do with what just happened. And it's like kind of my friend Corey Goodwin, he's a mentor of mine, and on to the next is his term. On to the next. And he helps my kids and even me where he's like, forget about what just happened, on to the next thing. Just forget it. On to the next, on to the next. He always says that to me, and it works really well.
Yeah. Pivoting and compartmentalization are probably two of the biggest traits that you need to possess in order to be a successful entrepreneur. You have to have, and rapid decision making, I think, is something as well. But once you make that rapid decision, understand that there's probably going to be a pivot at some point in time, but you can't let all the things along that journey affect it.
No, you can't. You're right. And just having that mindset of like, you're going to do well, no matter what. Like this coronavirus is crazy. I did a post a few weeks ago. I'm like, I did all my sales and I didn't once complain about the coronavirus, or I didn't once fight with somebody on Facebook over politics, because so many people, they really love like that. I don't even know what it's
like
called.
Outrage culture.
Yes. Yeah. They love that. They literally get fulfilled from that, and they get like excited about fighting with somebody on social media. I don't do that. Like there's no reason for me to even jump in, and it doesn't do me any good. And I think a lot of people aren't successful because of that. They're focusing and dialed in on the wrong things.
Yeah, you have to. It comes down to your scale of evaluation. Am I gaining anything out of getting into this argument? Am I going to change their opinion? Probably not. If it's over the internet, what's going to happen if I get in this argument? Well, I'm probably going to get mad. This person's probably going to get pissed. There's literally nothing to gain from it.
I've seen a lot of agents. They post the dumbest things on social media, especially about politics and this coronavirus. And I'm like, you make yourself look so bad by doing that. Like you're losing like hundreds of thousands of dollars of people that are looking at this, and they think they're like God's gift to like, I'm talking about this and I think I'm right. And I'm like, you're losing a lot of people, by saying stupid things on social media. So I try to keep my social media. I have my beliefs, and I just kind of, it's separate. It's not relevant to what I'm doing of helping people right now.
Especially in real estate where you are your brand. So however people view you is basically based upon trustworthiness. And if you're constantly being a pessimist or narcissistic or complaining about politics, then they're not going to view you in a trustworthy manner.
No, your reputation is everything. And you're right, your brand, my name. That's why I use it. The Griggs team, like, people know me and they know what I'm about and my values and what I do. And I think that's been very helpful in my business. They're like, okay, Griggs is a solid guy and you can trust him with whatever you need. If it's real estate, if it's lacrosse. I mean, a lot of people trust me with their kids. So a lot of people see that. And now it's like filtration where every year I meet new people. And now I have this huge network of like, my name gets around, and I appreciate that people see how hard I work and the time and effort I put into things.
Throughout this entire conversation, I think we've come to a realization that you're very good at networking, right? That's something that you're very passionate about. Do you have any tips or kind of go-to networking, I'd say networking, I don't know, ideals or approaches, and when it comes to meeting new people?
I'm just never nervous meeting somebody if it's an A-list celebrity compared to like the valet guy downstairs. I will go up and talk to anybody at any time. My wife she always is on, because I think a good trait that I have, I recognize people. I'm like, oh, this person, I know him from this and that, and you could strike up conversation that way. So I think if you are in sales or if you're an entrepreneur, you need to meet people in order, whatever you're doing, because eventually you're going to need other people for you to be successful. If you're selling something, whatever you're doing. So I think that's a good trait. You need to just be aggressive. I'm very aggressive. I will go up to anybody and strike up a conversation. And you have to be able to adapt to the situation. Like working in the nightclub, somebody said that they were from Texas. Oh, I was in Texas last week. Like, you got to just kind of flow with it. Like, whatever they say, like, agree kind of with them and nurture their conversation. And then that's how you build really good relationships. You can't just go and say, hey, I'm Jason. Like, you want to buy a house for me? That's not how it works. So that's kind of what I've done.
Being approachable, personable, relatable, all of the ables.
yeah, and confident. You need to be confident, and especially in sales. If you're not confident, you'll never be successful. Confident in what I do just by repetition, right? Just like shooting free throws. If you shoot 1,000,000, you'll be good at it, and you'll be confident in the game. And that's where I'm at now.
I'm glad you say repetition. That's something. Confidence is kind of how I view patience, where it's like, you don't know if you're ever in that position until you just have to practice it. Like, I was a very impatient person, and now I'm like extremely patient. And I've had friends ask me like, how did you become so patient? And I was like, I practiced it. But it's like, how do you practice it if you're not? Same with confidence. It's just like, you just have to put yourself out there. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning. Many times you're going to feel uncomfortable, but eventually, it's kind of like death by 1,000 cuts. But it's like, instead it's like, every time you cut yourself, you're just getting more confident.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's just like you just harness that skill.
I'm not patient at all. I'm like but some, you know what? Some things I am. With my real estate portfolio, I kind of am. Like, I know it's not going to go up 100% in a year, but I'm just not a patient person where I'm like, all right, let's go. We got to on the move. Like, let's keep it moving. Let's keep things rolling. That's just the way I am. I think it works for me. But, sometimes you could get too complacent. And that's something I never want to do, where I'm just like, all right, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm constantly trying to figure out the next move and what could benefit me if I do something well.
Sounds like you live along the philosophy of, if you're not growing, you're dying.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. I am a part of that.
All right. Before we get out of here, I have one parting question for you.
Shoot.
What does Las Vegas mean to you?
Las Vegas means a lot to me. I moved myself here. I moved my wife here, and I moved my brother here. I have my 2 best friends here. Working on a few more best friends from back home in New York. It means a lot. The city is important to me, especially Henderson, where I live. The people there are amazing. I've met so many tremendous people that have helped me get to where I am. I want to thank them all. They know who they are. And I am the biggest Las Vegas fan. And if you'll see my social media, I am a huge supporter of the city, whatever it needs. I think I do my part with the lacrosse and building the community. And I want to continue to do that as much as possible. So if you are thinking about moving to Las Vegas, I would highly recommend it. I think it could be life-changing for you, just like it was for me. And if you need somebody to help you in the real estate world, I'm here.
Yeah, we're only on the ground floor, ladies and gentlemen. Vegas is going to be blooming.
I agree. I think I think we're going to see some. Did you go to the new stadium yet?
I have not been able to go yet. I saw you had a tour.
Oh my God. It was 10 times better than what I thought. That's how mind-blowing.
It looks beautiful from the outside and from the videos on the inside.
Mark Davis did a great job. I have season tickets, which I'm pumped about. So I'm going to be able to bring some people to the games and have some fun.
Let's go. Where do I send all of the listeners and viewers to learn more about you and your businesses?
So you can follow me on Instagram. That's my best form of social media, J Griggs Real Estate.
Easy.
Yep.
It's noted in the bottom. Jason, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Love this conversation.
I appreciate it, and best of luck to you in the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you guys for listening. We will catch you next time.